I really enjoyed the last time you started with that burp. And I need to tell you how much of a pain in the butt it was to get the actual burp to show up, because the way I process audio for these things, I put it through a filter in Logic, which makes it so only the voice comes through. But then I had to use your camera and microphone to get the burp itself, because that program cut out the burp. So thank you for that. I was going to burp myself, but I figured that maybe that's not the best way. Two in a row. Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. Just got back from Indiana visiting some friends. Also visiting IU football spring practice, which was always good to go and just observe and learn different ways people teach kind of similar
Was
concepts.
that an invitational thing you went to?
No, one of the things I've found that's really fun is if you ask and you're genuinely going to learn, almost every major program will do their best to accommodate you, to come in and observe and learn, ask questions. I always like to say the more in an industry or space such as sports, for example, the more performance is visible, the less political it is.
Interesting.
There's like, yeah, come observe. There's no like secret sauce here. We just think we can teach it better than you can. So good luck.
Interesting. Very interesting. So I will say that's something of your personality I've also tried to really steal for myself. I don't remember when I heard you say it, but I remember you saying at one point that America is the only place where unless you get a no, the answer isn't no, which is true for most things you ask for. Like if you don't ask, then the answer is definitely no. But if you ask, you might actually get a yes.
Yeah, there's so many more opportunities out there. We're the biggest no teller to ourselves than anyone else or anything else.
Totally, dude. Totally. I have an interview coming up next week. I'll be talking to somebody else who is not named Jihad, which I'm excited about because I'm getting kind of sick of you. But the person I'm talking to is a guy who his name is Dr. Justin Pewter, but I was terrified to reach out to him because I was like, he's got like a bajillion followers and he's Instagram, not famous, but Instagram big.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, man, do you want to do an episode of a podcast with me? And he wrote back like the same night, like, totally, let's do it. And I was like, what? What?
That's awesome.
So that's kind of, yeah, the power of asking. You never know.
Well, I think that's great because my next question for you was going to be like, what's a no you kind of pushed through and asked?
I mean, that was one. The
Yeah.
other no's I pushed through. Nothing comes. I know it's something that I've done in the past where I've wanted to do something. I think it's more on an interpersonal level, like with my friends. Like, hey, do you want to do this thing? And then people will more often than not say yes, unless they can't. And
Yeah.
I think being open to a no is an important part of this. But certainly, my life is better because I ask questions that I could get a no for, and the answer is more often than not yes, which is great. So thanks for that, buddy. Speaking of thanks, there's a couple spanks, couple thanks that need to go out. First and foremost, everybody who sent emails to Pete. He has seen them all. He's been very grateful for them. And I've spoken to Pete since, Pete's doing well. He's just super busy. So I sent them to Pete. He's grateful for them. Thanks. Number two is to Jihad, who is now 2 weeks into helping me as I figure this out. I don't think that Jihad will be my forever co-host on this necessarily, but I really thank you so much for doing this with me. It has meant a lot, and it continues to mean a lot. And I hope you die face down in a ditch.
Well, besides dying face down in a ditch, it's always good to chat with you.
You say that now. Don't knock it till you've tried it. The dying face down in the ditch thing. So today we're having another conversation that when I was thinking about conversations I would like to have with Jihad specifically, sports came up because Jihad, I think more than anyone I know, is a sports fan, and like all sports. Is there any sport that you don't particularly enjoy watching, learning about, playing?
Cricket.
That was a fast cricket. Why cricket?
I don't know. I don't like that it take. I, I don't like that any sport that can take days and have no result.
That's fair. If you had to rank your sporting preferences, where do they land?
That's a tough one. I might not even go specific sports. I would say team sports and then individual sports are probably
Mhm.
my that would be my order.
Hmm. So for you, like basketball is on the same level as baseball, on the same level as football.
Yeah. I
That's crazy to me.
you're like, how could baseball be the same level of anything?
It's the worst.
Oh, it's such a
Actually,
skill.
that's not true. Golf is pretty bad.
It's individual though. I'm just saying. I do
Yeah.
enjoy golf. I enjoy playing it. But yeah, I would say I like being a student of sports. I love being a fan. I love being a coach, a player. Like there's different perspectives for sports. I kind of
Mhm.
enjoy all of them. I don't know maybe being an administrator in sports might not be fun. I don't know. I haven't done that yet. Yeah, I
What
kind
is
of
an like? What does that mean, administrator?
yeah, like someone who works on like if you think of a professional franchise, the person who sells the
Hmm.
suites in the stadium, or the
Oh,
COO, like the business side or the operations side of sports.
gotcha.
I might like it. I might not. I don't know. Don't have that experience, but coaching, playing, fandom,
Hmm.
culture of sports, I like all those things.
Sports culture. So you like shirtless dudes screaming at other shirtless dudes.
But they're not just shirtless. They're also there's lots of body paint.
That's it's like art. It's
Yeah,
artistic expression.
yeah.
All right, I can get behind that. What makes this interesting to me is I do not share the same love of sports. It's not to say I don't like, obviously, I love basketball. Jihad and I traveled to go see the Lakers play. We just went to DC to see the Wizards get completely destroyed, which, in defense of the Wizards, is because they're a terrible team and would have been destroyed by literally anybody. But we did go see the Lakers destroy the Wizards. That was fun. Um, but outside of that, I maybe to the surprise of nobody listening to this, and definitely not to the surprise of Jihad, I prefer individual sports. Get me on a bike by myself. I like to go. Give me a mountain or a rock to climb or hike, or if it's me versus me, I love it, and I don't have to rely on anybody. That's where I kind of thrive the most.
Hmm.
So interesting. I didn't even consider individual versus team until I was doing the research for this episode. So it's surprising to me, and not surprising to me, I guess, maybe a little, that you came in and you're like, yeah, individual versus team. I prefer team versus individual.
I do like individual sports too. It's just if I
Mm-hmm.
had to start ranking them, it would probably I probably air my time and attention and interest into team sports first.
So maybe we'll start. We were kind of talking about this before I started recording this. You made a very interesting point in sports that sports is an everybody thing, and there's a delineation between sports and women's sports, but there are no men's sports.
Uh,
Tell me
yeah,
more.
you just mentioned like men's and women's sports, and I was actually highlighting that it's not commonly understood just because it's become so common in our vernacular to say like men's basketball and women's basketball or boys tennis and women's tennis, but it's actually just basketball and women's basketball.
Hmm.
So it's like just sports and women's sports. In sports, anyone can play who's good enough to play. In women's sports, only women can play. And so that's like actually the distinction where women's sports got carved out, the Title IX work, uh,
Hmm.
which is why we have the arguably some of the best women's sports teams in the world is because we actually carved that out for them. But in terms of sports, it's not actually men's or women's sports.
Hmm.
It's not men's or boys' sports. It's just sports.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like, I'm glad you pointed out too that we have such amazing women's teams. Like the WNBA is not full of flashy dunks, but man, those women freaking ball out. They are stupid good at what they do. And obviously, the women's hockey team just won gold. The women's soccer team is ridiculous. They're phenomenal. So,
And yeah, and part of the reason they're so phenomenal is we kind of carved out and put resources behind it.
mhm. And the
Um,
purpose of that carving out, tell me more about that.
women didn't get as nearly as many opportunities. Like actually, when
Hmm.
when they're younger, they develop a little bit faster than boys. So you'll see a lot of youth teams with girls and boys together. You might
Hmm.
even see some lower level high school teams, uh, and you'll see women and like young women and young men together.
Hmm.
But in terms of the opportunities for them to just play a lot and develop in a given sport, they just weren't available. And if they were ad hoc, haphazardly put together, not a ton of opportunities.
Mhm.
Title IX carving out specific resources, funding, and requirements for women's sports or girls sports enabled, the whole country to have specific coaching for those sports,
Mhm.
resources for them to have equipment, training, spaces to do those sports.
Yeah.
Like without that, the existing sports team would get prioritized for all the resources, all the practice time, all the access to the courts or the fields or you name it.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, essentially just put us ahead of the rest of the world in terms of women's sports. The rest of the world's somewhat catching up now, but we had a 40-year head start.
So as we talk about sporting and all this stuff, obviously I'm coming at this from a mental health standpoint, and that's my view is always a question of how does this impact mental health. For you though, I know we've talked about you love teams, specifically teams, and when you talk about organizational psych and the work you do professionally, it's a team focused. I'm assuming your love of the team came from your love of sports.
There's probably a good bit of that. Funny enough, you've been a part of some great teams that I've been on. Uh, it can
PHS JV swim team, baby. Woo!
Well, I was also thinking about like our Boy Scout troop. Like I
Mhm.
actually, like in terms of the experiences, what we learned, like looking back on it compared to what I hear other kids or other people had as their experience in that
Mhm.
kind of domain, we had a pretty special group in terms of
Oh, dude,
leaders and example
absolutely.
experiences, like how they let us learn, sometimes painfully,
Mhm.
but they also like took care of us, and
Yeah.
like we got to learn how to take care of each other, push each other's button,
Mhm.
like learn all those dynamics that really help you later in
Yeah.
life. I was thinking before we even jump in it, I have a thesis about sports and I'd love to get your thought on it.
Okay.
And you may have heard me say this before, but I just wanted to share. I think sports are special for humanity as a whole in that it's the only human endeavor I know of that allows for all human emotion or expression of all human emotion, regardless of gender, race, religion, background, across all countries, across all humanity. It's the only human endeavor that allows for that. And I don't know of another one. And that's why I think sports are so special. And I'm always like conscientious of elevating and protecting sports in that way. And I'm curious your thoughts on that idea.
Yeah, I do remember you saying that. I've thought a lot about that. And I think for the most part, you're right. I don't know that I agree it's the only one though. And I think where I want to push against that is, I think art makes space for all of these things as well. I don't think it makes space in a way that people necessarily allow themselves to access. And I think maybe that's more what you're talking about is like you can get a room full of people and their team makes the shot and like the entire room explodes.
Yeah.
But as opposed to like you have like a beautiful piece of art, not everyone is going to like start sobbing at the weight of it. But
Well,
I think that good.
oh no, I was like going to say, I love the art example, but not to get uh, too into my lineage, but ISIS might not agree with you. You but they would with sports. I'm just saying.
wait, why does this have to do with your lineage? Are you descendants of
I I don't know. That's at least what my neighbors
my
tell
great
me.
grandfather who invented ISIS?
Yeah. No, I know it's an extreme example, but that's literally what I mean. Is like in any situation, sports will allow for some like these types of expressions. I don't know if
Will
art would.
allow for. I think allow
Yeah,
for is the word that I want to get stuck on because I think that like you look at the Soviet Union, you look at ISIS, the first thing they remove is art so they can control
yeah,
narratives and emotional impacts and expressions. But I think that kind of proves the point that it is such a powerful force of emotional tapping into that is universally felt.
yeah. I just they don't do that with sports though. They're still competitive. They still celebrate. They still cry when their team loses. They'll still compete.
Hmm.
Um, that that's the only like regardless of the context, like like those the heartwarming story from World War I, where they had the soccer match when they
During
had a
the
during Christmas, they had a ceasefire and played a
mm,
soccer match. Like it's like regardless of the situation, that is a common language and a common acceptance of exuberance or heartache or anger, excitement, like that whole
mhm,
the whole palette, like where if you're a woman, it might not be proper in some cultures to be exuberant about something in public. You have to kind of hold that in. You can't just jump and hug a stranger. But in sports, there's a lot of leeway for that.
it's
For
interesting to me hearing you say that, specifically because you have a lot of experience internationally that I don't. Explicitly, your apparent lineage from the ISIS world. Uh, are you telling me then that in the more extreme conservative countries in the Middle East, women are allowed to be vocally expressive during sports?
it's conditional, right? Like obviously in the most extreme situations, I'm being a little playful, but like it's conditional.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're not allowed to be in the stadium, but like if they're watching somewhere else, they can still be expressive.
Hmm.
To me, the main point of the thesis isn't necessarily to be argumentative about one thing. It's more that
Hmm.
we have this thing that's always been there, whether it's an inflated bladder of a sheep or a stick or a rock or just lines in the dirt. Humans have always found a way to play and compete
Hmm.
and make that into a mental and physical challenge, a social connector, unifier. There's for as long as humans have existed, we're going to find a way to make a game out of something. And there's
Hmm.
that to me is like what the essence of sports is. It's ultimately
Uh,
unifying and space for expression.
hmm. I know you've talked about curiosity as a thing, and so I find myself curious now. Why do you think that? What is the here? Maybe I ask a you question because that's where I excel. For you, then, what what do you feel like you can express and experience through sports that you otherwise would not be able to?
That's a tough one. I spent I spent a lot of time in terms of like learning to express all sorts of things regardless of context.
Sure.
But maybe like some of the most impactful things is you know just coaching the team I'm coaching right now, the young high school boys, like watching 16 and 17-year olds in tears supporting each other, 16 and 17-year
Hmm.
old boys, like the peak of their hormones, got to be tough, got to look a certain way, got to be there's no hesitation in terms of physical connection, support, love, camaraderie. Uh,
Hmm.
those like I don't know where I see those moments outside of a movie. It feels
Hmm.
different. I had the thought because doing before this show, like preparing, I looked up like a few different studies, but I thought it was funny is I never actually took the time to look up studies because it was always so self-evident to me,
Hmm.
just from my experiences personally, and then like watching other kids or adults even go through sports is
Sure.
there's it exemplifies every range of emotion that you would experience in life. You can see the highest of the highs, the lowest of the lows, and everything in between
Yeah.
when you're watching it or
Have you?
experience.
This is maybe a silly thing, but are you? Do you know the Lonely Island, right? The
Yeah, the band.
yeah. Have you have you seen their We Like Sports video?
Yeah,
Yeah, these two guys. So it's Andy Samberg, Akiva Schaffer, and Jorma Taccone. And it's Andy was on SNL forever, and they did Dick in a Box and Lazy Son and all this stuff. They have one where it's just Yorma and Akiva, and it's these two super dorks who are like, "We like sports," and they clearly are fully unathletic and terrible at it.
yeah.
But there's a line in that that I think about from time to time, and I maybe this is worth talking about a little bit, which is I can see some people like, yeah, sports exemplifies a lot of the possibility, but all I ever see is when my boyfriend's team loses, he turns into a raging douchebag. Because like there's a line in that song where they're like, You know, if my team loses, I'll be mean all night. Like that's super on the nose for I think a lot of people's experience of sports, and it kind of pushes people out of sports. So like, I don't want to be involved in something where I'm so drawn up. And I mean, you see, like I was in Washington State when the Canucks lost the NHL Finals like years and years ago. They destroyed Vancouver, and you could say the same thing about Philadelphia, Los Angeles, New York, Boston. People riot when their team. People have died in South America because of mistakes they made in soccer. For some
Well,
people, they're like, yeah, it is special.
what's the etymology of the word fan?
I have no idea. That's a great question.
Fanatic.
You'll be shocked to hear this, but you're correct. according to According to what I'm reading right now, the word fan and admirer is an abbreviation of fanatic, which originated in the late 19th century, particularly in American sports journalism to describe dedicated supporters. It derives from the Latin fanaticus, insanely but divinely inspired or of a temple, with fan appearing around the 1880s.
Yes. So I will say there is, and just like with anything, too much of a good thing can become unhealthy.
Sure.
And that's what you're describing too is exclusively on the fandom side. So we use fan and fandom, but it does come from fanaticism, and it can happen, right? People become obsessed; it becomes their identity.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like think about like people start using like we and us, and we didn't
Yeah.
score, but like they live
We
a
won the
thousand.
championship.
Yeah,
We didn't win the championship. They did.
yeah, they did, and I celebrate that because I support them. But there is like an unhealthy line that can happen, uh, especially on the fan side. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
fan is an appropriate word because they become fanatical about
Yeah.
their team and the outcome of each and every play, let alone game, let alone
Oh,
season.
dude. I feel like as a Lakers fan, nobody hates the Lakers more than Lakers fans. After any game where they don't win, you would think that we had just like invented genocide for fun. I can't believe they did this. Coach sucks. Oh, LeBron's terrible. We should
Trade
trade
everyone
him.
away.
Throw it all out. Never mind the fact that we're in the playoffs and I just did it. I'm not in the playoffs. The team that I really love is in the playoffs. They're up 2-0.
Well, but the thing is, I actually don't think that's a bad thing. Like to feel a sense of connection and community, as long as it doesn't get
Totally.
to as long as it doesn't get to an unhealthy level, right? Which is, if I'm being like completely transparent, I got to that point. Nothing like crazy where I'm going to destroy something, but I didn't notice it. But I remember Kate telling me, shoot, we were in Irvine at the time, so this would have been what 2010,
15 years ago.
yeah, 2009, 2010.
Mm.
That I was noticeably different if the Lakers lost. Like my mood was noticeably different. Not that I was like mean
Uh,
to her. I was just, and sometimes she would like kind of poke her head in and see like, oh, how'd things go? Like, and if they lost, she'd go shopping or something. She wouldn't stay. And then when I noticed that, and then I asked her and she told me, I was like, okay, I went on like a fast, so to speak. So I
uh-huh.
didn't watch them. Uh, I think I said I won't watch them unless they make the finals. And that year they played Boston in the finals and lost, which was frustrating. But I watched them in the finals. And then the other thing I did to kind of retrain
And they won
myself,
the next year just for
it,
whatever it's worth. Go
yeah,
Lakers.
they won two more the next 2 years.
Yes, they
Uh,
did.
one of the things I did actually was I was just noticing like I was getting myself worked up for any team that I was a fan of. And so it's
Hmm.
like, oh, I just need to move. Like I was just sitting in my house, like watching all this energy. And so I made an agreement that I wouldn't watch a game unless I was at the gym on the elliptical machine. And so I'd be 3 hours on the elliptical machine, just
Oh my
watching the whole.
gosh.
But it like kind of reset my nervous system. That worked for me. I don't know if it was like I was in good shape. I could
Yeah.
uh, when it becomes the thing, that's probably when it's an unhealthy thing
Hmm.
versus like a thing in your life that you're doing or that you're excited to be a part of.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a fair caveat to throw in. I know for me, people love to hate Lakers fans because apparently we're the worst, which is incorrect for whatever that's worth. For my money, the worst sports fans, the Celtics fans are terrible, but even worse than Celtics fans are Clippers fans, and even worse than Clippers fans are Jazz fans. Oh, I hate Jazz fans so much. Hi, Utah. but I have been shocked, genuinely shocked. Everywhere we go, especially when we first started doing the games, I would feel legitimately uncomfortable walking into a foreign arena, like an away team experience arena, wearing a Lakers shirt, because I'm always like, people are going to yell at us, because that's what happened when I go see the Jazz when I lived in Utah. People would yell at me. I went with a game to a game one time with my whole family. My mom and dad were there. People were yelling at my mom, telling her that she was a terrible person because she raised Lakers fans. What is wrong with you people? I've never seen that anywhere else.
Yeah.
Whether the Lakers have won when we've been there or they've lost when we've been there, the fandoms understand that it's a game and they've been like, hey, man, that was a good game. We almost had you. Or, oh, we got you this time. Take that. It's been surprisingly nice.
Yeah, I
Oh,
would say, what was it? Oklahoma City was probably like they were like the
oh my
most wholesome
gosh.
and sweetest fan
Oh,
base I think I've ever.
dude. Yes. Going to Oklahoma City to see the Thunder play. And that was last year when they won the championship by far. And we've had some great arena
Yeah,
experiences. The Oklahoma City Thunder fan base, the arena, the whole experience is probably my favorite experience we've had at any arena, and we've had some great experiences.
yeah,
But
and that
and I
and
think
that was
we won
that
that
was
game, didn't we?
it was their worst home loss of the season on a good
Mm-hmm.
team, and that was with them losing by 20 plus points. They were still very gracious, very kind.
So gracious, yeah. Like at one point, it was like super. I think it was a family oriented day that day too. It was like a Sunday at 2 p.m, and it
Yeah,
was super family friendly. And like all these kids were so excited, and like everyone on both sides, like people who were cheering for the Thunder and the Lakers, were like cheering the kids on as they got excited. I That was a special game. That was a excuse me, a really cool game to be a part
yeah,
of. Through all this, from an emotional lens, you're delineating between fanaticism and fandom, which I think is important. I know for me, I have held back from sports because of the team aspect. And I also don't like the fanaticism involved in that. And I'm traveling around the country to see a specific basketball team play. So maybe I'm a little in the crazy bin as well.
you're in the human bin.
No,
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 we
no, I'm
don't.
not human.
We don't. That goal of like alignment through and through. That's the booby prize. Just be human. Pursue your interests.
Oh, fine. I am human and I am dancer. Um, for you specifically, you've talked about coaching young men and how fulfilling it is to watch them just be so fantastic to each other. One, has it surprised you that that's happened?
At this point, no. Growing up, I was part of a lot of great teams, but I also was part of teams where there were great teammates, but like really terrible coaches.
Mhm,
Uh, and recognizing how important the quality of the coaches in forming the quality coach, like the leader, in terms
mhm,
of forming the environment for athletes to develop and learn skills that are of value rather than there's some locker rooms that focus on toughness without concern for the other person.
hmm,
Like they prioritize toughness and performance on the field over
mhm.
relationships across the team. That is true in business. That's true in life. That's true in a lot of places, right? Like, hey, if you're great at what you do, that's all we care about. You can dunk on anyone and whoever in any fashion you choose, as long as you continue to excel for us. Um, but that's never been like the great teams that I've seen. I often, and apologies, Dwight Howard, you seem to have grown a lot in your later years, even though you're goofy.
Yes.
But I used him
Oh,
as
he's
an
listening.
example. Yeah, I used him as an example for many years in that, he was a dominant defensive player. He would score 25 points and 10 rebounds, which would be, maybe one of five players in the NBA could do that in a given season. He would do that
Mhm,
like consistently every season. Yet every team he went to, he would destroy the locker room. And so he got his number, he got his, but the team suffered.
mhm.
The team never performed. Uh, and that's like the beauty of a team sport is it can really highlight kind of cultural issues, like compatibility issues, schematic issues, coaching
Sure.
issues, all those things, and that somebody can individually look great, but the team outcomes are going to be really subpar.
Mm.
Uh, and ultimately, in a team sport, you're the biggest thing that needs to happen is a team outcome, right? Like a champion, like an NBA championship is not an individual outcome; that is a team outcome. Uh, yeah,
I
I
admit
can,
that what you're saying, it makes me a little curious about something. And I think that is a lot of people have a preconception that sports, especially sports, men's sports, which you have just said doesn't exist, but for the sake of a shorthand, men's sports teams,
yeah,
um, kind of breeds this like super machismo, if not toxic, very close to toxic. We are men. We are destroying things. We are better. And I think there are some people, certainly myself, that's been one of the things I'm like, I don't know that I need to be around. We're men. We break stuff. Oh, we'll kill you. Like it's a game, guys. You're playing with balls.
I would say if that is the outcome people see, that is a team that has not had to work hard to do what it's doing. You know, one one of the examples I have from having coached in the, like, I would like to say, like, probably the, the dudest of dude cultures, which is like offshore deep water drilling oil rigs, like
Mm-hmm.
just a bunch of dudes, like
And
big
by
country.
coach, you don't mean like sports coached.
Yeah, like, which not much different, but like performance coaching, right? Like, how do I help them be better?
Mm.
How do I help their team be better? And I've coached like Silicon Valley tech companies, or, like where they have like similar outcomes. And it's interesting to see what you're describing. I like that bro culture. To me, those are guys who have either seen a good team do certain behaviors, like great teams make fun of each other. That is a 100%. If a team is not teasing or making fun of other team members, they do not like you and they do not want you there. Like it is a fractured team.
Mm.
Um, that's true from NASA to high school sports to whatever. It's just part of. It's hard to explain why, but like that humor piece is part of how we cope with shared struggle, shared hardship.
Would you say
Art,
is that a gendered experience, or would you say that's true men and women both?
men and women both.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not saying it's the same level, right?
Sure, sure.
Because this is where the bro culture misses it, because they only see it from the outside. They don't actually know what it means or what it's for. Is that joking, or that play is one to create connection, but also to like diffuse this hardship that you're all going through together, right?
Hmm.
You're in it together. And what that means when you're teasing is if you notice somebody is not bouncing back, the ball's not going back and forth, you're like tossing a ball over the net and it's getting stuck over there, you modulate, because the point isn't the joke, the point is the relationship, right? That's true on a team. And it's not even just about joking, it's anything that you're doing in terms of interaction. Like, you want to be getting better, you want your teammates to get better, but you're not going to ride them to the point where you break the relationship,
Oh,
right?
totally. Like it's I think the very first episode that Pete and I did with this was we talked about male friendship and like the importance of like for example, you and I
Yeah,
last week made a joke about how much you smell bad.
yeah.
And I made that joke because objectively it can be true sometimes. But in the moments when you've smelled the worst, and it's always been, you're like, oh, I stink. You've got to
You're
smell
gonna
me.
smell this, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, come over
But,
here.
and you've
And then
been
you come
right.
over
It's
here.
been
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
But if I were
That's
to be like, oh, yeah, I mean, Jihad smells bad. And Jihad was like, I actually am really sensitive about that. Like, for example, they used to call me Stinky Mormon in high school. And I think they thought they were playing. And I had to be like, guys, I don't think it's funny. And they stopped.
yeah,
And that was really important to me because it was kind of giving me a complex. Like, I don't smell bad, guys. You smell bad.
yeah.
But there is
Because
that line where if you cross it, it's too much and you have to stop and pay attention to it. So that's, I think, the communal aspect you're talking about.
and that's actually one of the gifts of sports, is you learn what what stops the game, right?
Mhm.
What stops the relationship, and you also learn what continues it, and you modulate. Like when you're a young kid,
Mhm.
like you're not going to be that great, but you're like, oh, my friend stopped talking to me because I said something. Maybe
Yeah.
I try something else, or I go say, I try and connect with them. In bro culture, or the culture you're describing, it's about the joke.
Huh. Okay.
It's not
I
about,
think one
and
of
because they haven't been in those hard situations to
mhm,
understand it's not actually about the joke. That's how you can watch like a military movie and think like these guys are saying the worst stuff to each other,
mhm,
but they would literally die for each other because the point isn't the joke. Like the joke is just you're actually creating connection through absurdity in your absurd or difficult situation.
sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Uh, I feel like what you're highlighting is a lot of there are a lot of great things I think that come from team sports. We talked about the studies. There's a study I found that says in pretty clear language that team sport athletes may be less likely to suffer anxiety or depression than individual sport athletes, and that's true for men, for women. It's true regardless of age. Um, Basically, it's saying that if you're working with a team around a common goal in a physical endeavor, you're less likely to be anxious or depressed. That's not to say that individual sports, I mean, any sporting event, any exercise really is going to help your emotional health. You're going to be less depressed, less anxious in general if
Yeah.
you're doing any kind of sport. But a team sport seems to have a special advantage in combating that anxiety or depression. I think in large part because mental health issues thrive in solitude. There's, you know, this, when you start to get worried when people are pushing you away, they're obviously suffering. Like, no, I don't want to talk about it. That's when people get really worried because there's an understanding, a recognition that the further you get away from the people around you, the worse it's going to get for that person. Team sports, if you're on the field and you're sucking, you're just, people are going to notice and they're going to come talk to you. Now, I have been on good teams and bad teams. I think classifying our scout troop as a good team is a fair thing to say. That was great. We're still, I don't know that we're all still friends in the sense we call each other up and hang out a lot, but I know
We're
for a
all
fact I could
connected.
call,
Yeah.
yeah, I could call anybody involved in that troop and like, hey, I'm in town. We'll get dinner to the big suite. Let's do it. It wouldn't be a question. I was on a team in high school, a basketball team, and I it was not a good team. I remember one time we were practicing and I was guarding a dude and I had my hand out and my hand touched his stomach and he went oh and he punched me as hard as he could in the gut because I was gay. Cool dude. I'm guarding you while we're playing basketball. So I've kind of seen the bad team sport too. And I think especially when I was younger, I was super tall, but like a buck 30 if I was lucky soaking wet. And so I didn't have a lot of weight to push around. So I was kind of stepped over and all these things. For me, I guess if I'm being honest, like maybe situations like that kind of soured my experience of like depending on people who don't want to depend on me and being made fun of
Yeah.
for not being as strong as them and all that. So I have always kind of tended towards the individual sports. Like for today, literally today, I went to the climbing gym and I climbed for an hour and just like blew my arms out and I loved it. And I have a bike that I ride a lot and I love that too. And I think that what I've gotten out of sports has always been more meaningful on an individual level because I can compete against myself really well. And I tell this to people fairly regularly that the gift of endurance athletics is endurance. I can't tell you how many times, like when I lived in Seattle, I go on like 35-mile rides, these big loops. And one part of the loop I'm thinking of in particular was 2 miles of a hill. You just go straight up this stupid hill. And by like a mile and a half, you're like, I hate this. I hate everything about it. But then something clicks in your brain. You go, I'm not going to lose to this hill. I'm
Yeah.
going to keep stepping on its face. I'm going to get to the top and I'm going to go down to the side. And I always did.
Yeah.
Sometimes not very fast. I've never been beaten by a hill, not once. So the number of times in my life I've been like, I can climb up that stupid hill. I can endure whatever nonsense I got to put up with right now. That's been the real gift to me that
Yeah.
I have learned from the individual.
I love that. I've often said the greatest gift you can give yourself is the knowledge that you can do a hard thing. Like that
Yeah,
you,
that's individual sports
yeah.
for
Um,
me.
well, I mean, it can happen anywhere, but
Mhm.
it is very much the mental aspect. I I'm a big believer. I'm blanking on the author's name, but he
What an
talks
idiot.
he talks about how specializing in sports too early, uh, you outperform your peers early on, but then your
Mhm.
progress flattens out later. Whereas they're a
Mhm.
little delayed, but then they just surpass you when they focus later because they've gotten experiences in multiple sports growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big believer in doing team sports and individual sports, because individual
Mm-hmm.
sports are very much an inside job. That's like you working on you from the on the inside, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
focus, resilience, self mastery, personal responsibility, independence, like all these different things that are kind of you realize you being with you and comfortable with being with you, and can you be present with what's going on, positive,
Mm-hmm.
negative, or otherwise. Like, uh, and then team sports, can you do that in a group setting where
Mm-hmm.
where you're accountable because everything is public. They can see if you're doing something or not, or how well or how poorly you're doing it. Can you learn how to create belonging and feel that sense of belonging to another group? Can, be in a system of shared meaning, social support, do a hard thing with a group of people and build a bond through shared struggle. Um, I think it would be such a gift if we allowed kids to do both of those things, right? Like
Sure.
you know, and then when they get to a certain spot where they find the thing that they love, and then they can like hyper focus when they get to high school, even later in high school, not even early. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a beauty in both, right? I almost feel like team sports is kind of keeps the threads of society healthy when you come
Sure.
from a healthy team, and individual sports keeps you whole and healthy on the inside to be able to show up fully in that social situation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you're talking about kind of forced vulnerability. I don't know that I'm comfortable saying forced necessarily, but
Yeah.
you have got to be vulnerable. If you are like not doing your part and people can see it, they're going to jump on you. And if you lose, you all lose together. And like, I know that crappy team that I was on, we did pretty well. We got to division championships. We were a step away from state championships, and then we lost. And during that game, my frustration was they had one guy that could put in his center. I was the center, the backup center on the team. They didn't put me in for reasons I don't think about it a whole lot, to be honest, but they didn't put me in. And I was like, coach, I see the mistake he's making. Put me in. And the coach, nope, this is his game. And we lost. And at the end of the game, I watched our star player, I think, go into the bathroom and just like have a full meltdown, crying, punching stuff. And I think we could talk about like the negative expression of emotion, but like certainly watching him fully decompensate in a way that he walked out of there and I walked out at the same time, and like we both were upset about the same thing, and it was a weird kind of bonding moment where it was like our respect for each other went up. It was really weird.
And like what you're describing, I have vague memories of your team at Southwestern. I think I went to one
Mm-hmm.
or two games. Um, but to me, that's the difference between good and bad coaching. And
Mm-hmm.
I even have over time learned to have grace for bad coaches, not in that they're going out there intentionally to try and mess up kids. They just don't have time. They don't have resources. They're like the high school I'm at has no resources. But
Mm-hmm.
fortunately for them, in the neighboring communities, there are a lot of people with football experience that have some time and want to work with kids. We literally have 12 coaches on the staff. My high school team had three. Most high school teams
Mm-hmm.
have one or two for the whole team. Uh, we have a quarterbacks coach, we have a cornerbacks coach, a linebacker, two linebacker coaches, a D line coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like each position group has a coach. And to be able to give kids that individualized attention, support, and improvement, for them to feel like they're accomplishing something, that also helps inspire them to want to show up even more, work harder, try harder, be less afraid to
Sure.
fail, because they know they've seen the output of failure is like if they stack failing, learning, and then starting to win, they're going to grow. Like
Yeah.
being able to see that versus seeing just failure, get cussed out, and put on the bench, and nobody pays attention to you again.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, you're talking about one of the most important things I think that comes from competition in general, which is learning how to fail and then keep going. We're like, we lost some real heartbreaker games, that team that I was on, but we kept going. And you had to carry that stupid gallon of milk, but we learned, we kept going. We
yeah,
totally took the L, but we came back from it.
yeah. Never got a gallon of milk again. See,
No, we did not. No, we did not.
for an overnight trip.
Oh my gosh.
uh,
Certainly not once we have to hike into the campsite.
I,
Or really
you know,
ever.
Yeah, ever. Like, what do you what do you need a gallon of milk
I
for?
love milk though. I love milk.
Yeah. Uh,
So
but
when you're working with the young men that you're coaching, how do you talk to them about these concepts of vulnerability or like I imagine for some of these young men, because I've seen your team play, I don't think it's me being rude to say they are not the most athletically gifted individuals from scratch. But the team that I watched play played the hell out of that game and they won. They destroyed the other team. Like it wasn't even they won. It was like
yeah,
it was ugly. The other team
against a
was playing super dirty.
much bigger, more athletic team, and we were
Yeah.
frustrating that team deeply.
Yes, yes, you were. It was real fun to watch. When you're coaching these young men and they're experiencing like I'm angry as a team, I'm happy as a team. How do you help them navigate their new experience of emotion in a group setting? This is maybe true for business too, but certainly in sports specifically.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I What I'm thinking about is, one, you have to set the context where emotion is okay
Mm,
before you can even work with emotion, because if you don't set that context, it'll just be sideways. Like they'll be passive aggressive, they'll be grumpy, they'll snap back but not express anything that you can work with, so to speak.
mhm.
And one of the things we do is we do this team camp in the summer, which is going to happen in late June,
Okay.
where we take them to Lake Tahoe. What a burden. This is their modern version of two-a-days, which is
Hmm.
somewhat of a lost art, in my opinion, just because some coaches took advantage of kids. But like there is a real value of physically exhausting young men.
Hmm.
Um, but we take them up there. We wake them up at 4:30 in the morning. Cell phones on the table before we leave the Airbnb. There's 6 kids in each house and one coach with them. And we drive to the beach on the lake and we do 2 full workouts on the beach
Hmm.
as the sun rises over the lake.
Hmm.
Uh, and then we go as a team, we go have breakfast, and then we get on the field and then we do a full practice. And then once we're done with that, the 7-on-7 tournament that we showed up for starts.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the rest of the teams that are there have slept in, done a few warm-ups, and then they show up to the tournament. And we always try and remind the kids, you've already done 2 full workout, like 2 cardio workouts and a full practice. That's how you're starting, right? And it's not to say like you're at a disadvantage or an excuse. It's this is, you've been willing to give yourself this, like to do this work, and now you're going to go compete. And then at the end of that day, we get back to the Airbnb, say 9 p.m. So at night, and before they can touch their phones, we ask questions in terms of like, what do you most want out of the upcoming season?
Hmm.
Like just to understand their motivations. Um, like, what do you think the team most needs? What's something you can do? And we do this every night, right? And so by day 4, they've had so many days of competition, exhaustion, skill building, team building, vulnerability. Like it's all fabricated, right? Like you're structuring these moments, but it's hard. And at the end, they realize they can do a hard thing. Like for the kids who haven't been there before, they don't know that the wake up call is that early. And the kids who have been there before, they don't tell them. It's like a rite of passage. It's like, we're going to make it through this. And that shared hardship and those moments of vulnerability together, I think enable us to coach them hard, like to put more expectation on them, more accountability, because we can always tie it back to what they actually want.
Hmm.
As like, why are they doing this sport? And on top of that, they have a deeper connection with their teammates that they don't want to, like, there is personal accountability or responsibility to each other, not just to themselves. Like, oh, I don't want to let my teammate down, my classmate down, fellow senior. I'm a junior. These are seniors. They're never going to get to play again. I don't want to be the one that causes them to lose the rivalry game. Like, what do
Hmm.
I need to do to show up? And that's where the balance is, right? You don't want to put unhealthy pressure on an individual kid, but you just focus on, they look like they don't want to do sprints that day. Like one kid will look like he doesn't want to do sprints that day. And I walk up to him and I say, "Hey Nico, what's going on?" And he goes, "Oh," I was like, "It doesn't look like you're really pushing yourself." And he goes, "I am, coach." I'm like, like, I know you want to, I know this is your senior year and you want to be dominant in the fourth quarter. You want to win. And how we're dominant in the fourth quarter is we're in better shape than our opposition. So as they're getting tired, we just keep on going right through them.
Mm.
And this is how we get there. Like just like tying it back to like, why are they doing this? And just reminding them. And that's kind of the individual component, but then also putting them in groups, like creating moments where they're competing as small groups, as position groups, as teams, like mini teams within the team. As many ways as you can get them to compete, to express, like that's how you're able to navigate like those feelings as they come up to where they don't disrupt the whole thing. Like the team gets frustrated. If you just like push on the frustrated nerve or the angry nerve, they're going to go out there and commit a ton of penalties. They're not actually going to perform. They're just going to be angry, going to be shaky, not be able to focus. It's all right. They're angry. Now what? Like like you just have that conversation. What do we want to do? We want to win. How are we going to win? And just break it down. You just chunk, but they can have their expression. They want to be frustrated. Their teammates can be with them. They can scream. They can cry. They can be jubilant, whatever it might be. The coach's job is allow space for it and then bring them back to the moment. Because fundamentally, a lot of times, like your emotions are going to pull you into the future or pull you into the past. You're going to remember something you messed up, or, oh, we're going to win this game. You're going to pull you out of the moment. But
that makes sense. So it sounds like for you, it's an implicit conversation. It's not even a conversation. It's we're going to model this for you. We're going to create a space where it can happen, but you're not sitting down and saying, like, for example, hey, sometimes you might get angry when that happens. Here's what we do.
We also do a little of that. So, and I think that's a healthy version. I don't think it's a requirement, but like we go above and beyond. So we go to like UC San Francisco and they have a sports psychology program and we get like their people who are the third year in their PhD program. And we say, hey, you want to get some research hours with our team? And they'll come over and give our players mental skills. Like specific skills, like, hey, when you feel like you're spinning, think about X, or, just the more skills you can give them, the better. But the biggest thing to remember is at this age, 95% of it's not going to stick.
Sure.
They're not pros at sports, but if you, that 5-10% that will stay with them the rest of their lives. So can you make that as good a 5 or 10% as possible? That's going to make them a better human, better athlete, better teammate, better husband, worker, whatever it might be.
Sure. This is all kind of circling a bigger question, which is what exactly is the relationship between sports and emotional expression, emotional experience? What do sports teach people about emotional expression? I look at it and I go, it teaches you how to be upset without letting the anger be the point. I think it teaches you how to feel good about yourself without getting lost in what you've accomplished. I feel like it's a very grounding thing. Like, for example, I used to ride my bike to work and home from work in Seattle all the time. And it was 4 miles both ways. And all the way there it was downhill and all the way back was all uphill. And so I learned a couple very important things about the nature of resilience. And one of those things was every day I would do my best, and every day my best was vastly different from the day before. Where sometimes my best was I would get home in like 22 minutes, and sometimes I get home in 29 minutes. And sometimes I'd be breaking little segment records and I'd be setting personal records. And sometimes I'd get home and just be like, I got nothing in the tank left. Whether or not the outcome was what I wanted, I knew if I'd actually given my best that day, and that became good enough. And that has translated into a lot of areas of my life where, like, I don't need to get the top prize to know that I did my best. Learning how to be angry and channel that anger into productivity has been something, when I get mad and I'm on my bike, I'm just like, oh, it's stupid, push my feet down as hard as I can. And then I go faster and it's going to hurt more. And then I'm going to be done. But I mean, that's, as an example, stuff that has taught me. For you, because you coach, I don't. What does that mean for you?
In terms of observationally or for me individually?
I think I meant more individually, but observationally as well.
For me, so what's interesting from the coaching perspective is not always making it about you, is always a constant struggle or a reminder
Mm-hmm.
that like it's not about my journey, it's not about the scheme, it's not about winning or losing. Because like the second you make it just about yourself or just about, oh, look at the cool play we're running, or winning or losing, they suck if we lose, or like good, they executed my game plan if we win. Like if I just make it about me,
Mm-hmm.
uh it almost guarantees you to lose your team.
Hmm.
So like for me it's a, but like it's a tough thing. Like it sounds terrible when I just say it so clinically like that, but it's a tough thing. Like you're putting a lot of effort, you get excited, like you see something, there's a strategy, there's a thing you want to implement. You know, it's ultimately a game, right? And you want to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it can get easy to lose sight of like each of them are on their own journey. I have like a little note to myself sometimes that I'll write to myself. I say, their journey is my journey. If I say my journey will help their journey or something of that nature, like the inverse, it never works, or it's
Hmm.
never a healthy version of it. It's like, oh, how can I make sure I connect with them, understand their motivations, um, making sure that I create an environment that motivates, inspires, and like creates accountability, responsibility, all those things. Uh, and then the output is they'll be able to execute more, right? Because now they're more excited, more energized, more engaged. So that's like the personal side, is like that struggle of not losing sight of the players. No matter how team focused I love the team, I love the players. That's, but
Hmm.
it's still a practice. You can easily just get sucked into what you're doing, which I think is true for anybody in any situation. Um, but then like observationally, it's almost the, like looking at it from the opposite direction of kind of what you're talking about in terms of like the ability to express or work through certain emotions. It's emotional suppression, which is a common problem for a lot of people who don't feel safe to express certain things. Like that's not
Hmm.
a neutral thing when you're doing. I think emotional suppression is often like, I don't find that neutral. Like it has like long-term impact and cause. Sports is a great kind of, you can call it like a sanctioned emotional laboratory. you know,
Hmm.
and it can be messy. It can be not perfect. Uh, but because you've made enough deposits and you have external support kind of holding you together, so that's like a great, like a primary job of a coach, it becomes a place where people learn how to deal with failure, success, public vulnerability. Like we've talked about vulnerability several times. Like when you go to do a tackle drill and you're one on one, that is incredibly vulnerable. How many, like, people lose sight of the fact that like you whiff, everyone's going to see you whiff. Like everyone's watching you, and there's no like, I got 99% of that tackle. No, you either didn't or you did or you didn't.
Hmm.
Um, and that's a really vulnerable thing to do, is be willing to perform in public, like be an actor on a stage and have people watch you. Like that is the ultimate form of, like, let alone like expressing an emotion. You are putting yourself out there. Uh, and then being able to like be in that laboratory where you can have intense feelings and physical contact and be like in situations where it's not just you that dictates the outcome. You're dependent on others, and uh, that's that's to me is like the really powerful thing, is it gives an outlet for emotion, even if it's a little messy. Like you
Hmm.
can practice, you can mess around in that environment. That's why you hear guys yell in that context, but they're not necessarily going to sit in a classroom and yell the same way. Like,
Sure.
like they'll be like for a drill, let's fucking go, then not in history
Mhm.
class, like screaming that at the teacher.
Revolutionary War, bitch! Woo!
Yeah, like it's contextual, but it's like
Mhm.
the environment allows for like expressing big and just seeing how you feel. Uh,
Yeah. I don't know why this is bringing this to my mind, but when I started the game with you, and please feel free not answer this question. One of your teammates, you know exactly what I'm about to ask about, the dad who just paces the whole time. Now, I
And is a
won't. I
monster of a man.
Oh my
So,
gosh, he's so big. He's a former NFL player, right?
yeah, the 20-year NFL veteran. Like,
Yeah. So I'm thinking about like the expression and watching him pace back and forth during the game and shout encouragement to his son, and also having the other parents who, as an outsider watching, is like, who is this guy? What is he doing? And then going, oh, he's a good guy. Oh, okay, we get to be friends. Okay, we get to, oh sweet, we're learning, we're growing, we're doing this together, we're moving together. Um, how that vulnerability as well of like not just performing for public, but performing for parents, performing for people who know what the thing is they're talking about. What you're doing, they know it.
yeah.
And I think, for me, that vulnerability is when doing a podcast talking about mental health stuff. Like there are other people who know mental health stuff who can now comment on it. And that's kind of scary at first. Learning to push past that vulnerability is where all the growth takes place. And so I think about that dad and like that vulnerability for his son of like, my father did this professionally and I'm now doing it. Ooh.
Yeah, I it's interesting. I think that is very true in a lot of instances. In that particular one, I think his son didn't have that as much because he didn't actually take up football until the year before. So
Oh,
yeah, like
really?
his dad didn't. He played more baseball. His dad didn't push him into football, and
Hmm.
then he just got more and more interested in what his dad had done and wanted to play football. Um, and he
He was
actually
great.
he wanted to play quarterback when he came to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he's an extremely positive kid. It's You can see the imprint of his dad. His dad applied probably the best things he learned from great coaches,
Mm-hmm.
which was allow space for questions, allow space for failure, understand it's a game, you know, like you can create real stakes and have it have real meaning, but it's ultimately a game, right?
Yeah.
And so you definitely, like, his son was one of the it's a weird thing to say about a 17-year-old boy. He's just really sweet. He's a sweet kid.
Oh, dude, absolutely. I was going to say it before you said it. Like that kid was obviously a real sweetheart of a human being.
Yeah. Like he would crush people, but like he would get up and like pick him up, or he kind of like trot off the field and have, yeah. Like first thing he would come to me, like every time he came to the sideline, he's like, "Coach, did you see what I did? Could I have done that? Like, are you seeing anything that I could do differently?"
Hmm.
Like he was literally like asking for feedback, and that's not something I instilled in him. So that's something that I have great respect for his father, who taught him, because he was homeschooled before coming to the
Hmm.
high school, like taught him like how to ask for feedback, how to, like feedback is not a threat to you. It's an opportunity to get better. I know for some of my younger coaches, so I have other younger coaches on my staff. They were always nervous to talk to that father, because of his experience, because they didn't want to say the wrong thing and
Hmm.
sound like they're dumb at
Uh,
football.
sure.
And it's just like,
He's an intimidating guy too. Like we're not talking this little tiny. He was a hulking massive, not like fat, big fat, but like
no,
you could tell that man knew how to use his massive frame to make
yeah,
things happen.
he's a NFL nose tackle for
Oh my
uh, uh,
gosh,
a really good one too, for more than a decade. Yeah, he's like 6'4", 6'5", and 300 pounds, and
he's
a lot of muscle.
massive.
Huge man. Um, but I would always talk to my coaches and tell them, you are a high school positional coach. You played here. You're supporting the kids. Most of the parents don't want to know if you can tell them like how to properly execute a surf technique from the outside edge of the defense. They just want to
Uh-huh.
know, do you have the best interest for their kids at heart?
Hmm.
And are you a good communicator? Are you a kind
Are you
person?
facilitating growth?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, is this someone I want my kids spending a few hours every day with? Or are you like
Hmm.
not that type of person? That's really what they're worried about. But same thing happens for coaches, as it does for players. Like, oh no, like I don't want to embarrass myself. Like I want to look like I know things. Like, it's okay to not know stuff. Yeah. honestly, I don't know if I've ever verbalized or thought about how vulnerable it is. I guess I think of it for the things that I would be particularly nervous to do, which would be like get on a stage and sing or do a
Hmm.
play. Because like I'd be like, oh, Tara, like that's really vulnerable. How can people do that?
Which
But
is
it's
funny because I'm like, dude, give me that any day of the week. I'll get in front of 1,000 people and sing and play music and like
yeah,
ask me to shoot a ball though. And I'm like, "Whoa."
yeah, yeah. Like I would do that in front of 1,000 people, or coach, or play, or like that one. I wouldn't even break a sweat. But I like putting it together in my head. It's like, oh, because I've practiced that. I've actually
Yeah.
trained. Like I've done that. I've exposed myself to that, where I know how to mentally, emotionally, physically navigate what might come up in those situations. Whereas I haven't done that
And
for
just so
being on
we're clear,
stage.
Jihad just admitted to exposing himself to children. It's been great having you on the episode today. Well, this I think highlights a really important thing as well, which is I feel a sadness in my heart for people who don't put themselves in vulnerable positions and situations because I remember, much as I'm sure you remember the first time you got on the field, I remember walking onto a field to be in the marching band and like being aware of everybody watching. I remember the first time I played a show in a band where I had written or co-written all the songs and just be like, I'm about to be judged. I'm about to be super judged. And people who have no idea how to do this are going to judge the product. And the more I stepped into that vulnerable place, as I'm sure that you could say the same, the less vulnerable it became. Where now I'm like, yeah, I wrote the song. If you don't like it, I really don't care because I wrote it for me. But I had to step through the vulnerability to get
Yeah,
to the position of power.
yeah, totally. Like I'd like you to like it, but I'm not defined if you liked it.
Exactly.
I'd like to win, but I'm not defined
Yeah.
if I win.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the scary thing is when people are like, well, we didn't win, so we're bad. No, you're not. You just lost. That's okay.
Yeah. I mean, you saying that uh, there's a study called Pull the Goalie
Mm.
where it's like an analytic. This is more about the kind of emotional vulnerability of coaches.
Mhm.
And so, the concept of pulling the goalie in hockey, when you're down, you pull your goalie, put an extra offensive player on the ice and try and score, but you leave your goal open.
Mm.
Uh, there is this mathematician who put together a study who said coaches wait far too long to pull the goalie.
Mm.
So, for example, like if you're down 2 goals, coaches might not pull the goalie until the last 60 seconds of the game, to try
Yeah.
and
What are you
like,
going to do?
yeah, try and equalize the game. Even with like being down 1 goal, they'll wait till like the last 45 seconds or 30 seconds to pull the goalie. Whereas the data says like if you're down 2 goals, you should pull the goalie with like 9 minutes left to try and equalize
Mm.
it and then like get more even. But it says the likelihood of you losing by a lot more significantly increases, but the likelihood of winning increases as well.
Mm.
Like you give yourself, so if you think what's the best chance to win, it's do this, but it also increases your likelihood of getting embarrassed. And that's why coaches don't do it. They would rather lose respectably than give their team the best chance to win and at the same time potentially lose horribly.
Mm. Interesting.
And it influences a lot of decision making, not based on data, but just in terms of perception. You don't want to be perceived as the coach who lost 15 to
Facts and
2. And
feelings, baby.
yeah. But it having this conversation is reminding me, I'm like, oh, that's like part of the emotional development or vulnerability. Like a coach has to have a really strong conviction and be willing to face the scrutiny of losing that badly by
Yeah.
like having the conviction that this is actually the best chance to win. I don't care how badly we lose. But that can also impact the players too. So there's so many factors like consider. But I hadn't thought of that study in this context before.
Now I'm wondering about pulling the goalie. Where in my life I should probably pull the goalie.
I
We've
mean
talked
it's a good
about, yeah. You and I've talked about the idea of killing the cow before, which is an inside joke that maybe we'll explain later. But like, it's kind of the same thing of like sometimes you got to kill the cow. All right. Well, again, thank you for doing this with me. Like, I feel like it's the really like the thing that made me the saddest when Pete was gone is like I just don't get to talk to Pete this regular anymore. So I really enjoyed an excuse to talk to you for an hour. I think that's like when we do our drives, we've driven to New Orleans and we drove to Oklahoma City. By far, my favorite part was like the drive. And that's not to say
yeah.
I didn't like the game, but like just we're
We
gonna sit
just
in the
talk
car for 8 hours and
about
talk the whole time.
just talk about whatever. It's really fun.
Yeah,
It's usually my favorite
cool,
memories
man.
too.
Yeah. Well, I love you, man. Thanks for doing this with me. That was quite the face you just made.
Love you too, man.
See you later.